Welcome back to another episode of Collider Jedi Council. It's our Star Wars show. It's everything in the world of Star Wars. We break it down for you guys. It is a very exciting episode for a lot of different reasons, and we're going to explain one of those reasons in just a second. I want to announce the council, the full-fledged council here. First, it's Mark II, D2, Mark Ellis. Hello, sir.
It's very good to be with you, Christian, and this is very exciting because not only is this the last episode of Jedi Council before we get our huge premiere that we're all going to on Monday, but I'm bookending my week because I went to Disneyland for the first time in since '87,
Wow.
a couple days ago.
Did you have a blast?
There's so much Star Wars crap there. It's unbelievably awesome.
And you called it crap. Wonderful.
I mean, in a good way.
Sitting next to him, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, John Campia.
Sup?
Nice. Now, we have been...
What a gunslinger.
We've been talking for a while here about one of the members that is finally joining the council full time. We've known her for a very long time. She's been on this show a very long time, and she is finally, we can say, her very first appearance as a full-fledged member. Another Sith Lord on the table. It is the Smith Lord, Tiffany Smith. Hello, Tiffany.
Yay! I'm so excited to finally be here and be full-time. And we were talking about Disneyland right before this because I was just there as well. And I donned my Boba Fett jacket. I got my Darth Vader hair clip, and I'm ready to talk Star Wars.
Yeah, welcome finally. You and I sitting down talking Star Wars again.
I
We get to
know.
do it. It's amazing to have the full council together. It's going to be very special. And to let you guys know, this is your council for the premiere as well. So we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff. We're going to try to do a YouTube live stream. We're going to do some tweets, Instagram, Periscope, the whole deal. So make sure if you're not following
From the world premiere of Star Wars on Monday night. We're going to be down there.
Yes, if
It's gonna
you're
be a lot
not
of fun.
following us, make sure you do that. Now let's get into the show. So starting off, we usually start this show with a topic simply known as the Star Wars movie news. Everything that relates into the world of the Star Wars movies is what we talk about in this segment. There was a ton of Star Wars movie news this week, and actually we are starting out this one. This one wasn't in the actual notes because it came out last night. It was a little late. The Chinese trailer came out last night, Mark.
That's right. Don't worry, it was in English too. We could all enjoy it together. And Christian and I saw this thing this morning, and I was nervous about it when it came out because I was like, wait, how much new footage are they showing? This is the first time that I saw there was new footage of Episode 7 that I didn't want to see because we're so close to the premiere. I ended up watching it like I knew I would. And we got a few new shots. It was mostly the same footage, maybe some things from different angles, some things that ran a little bit longer. But the big thing is we got a lot more Kylo Ren at the beginning of this one.
Yeah, I like the Kylo Ren stuff. I really love the Harrison Ford, Han Solo kicking it into gear, talking to the Falcon and being able, and we see him. I think it was a little bit of play on some of the scenes we've seen where Finn says to Rey, we need a pilot. She goes, we have one, and it cuts to Solo. That's not how it really goes down, as we know that, but it was cut beautifully. I liked it. I agree with you. The stuff that we did see at Kylo Ren, being able to see him actually with the Darth Vader helmet, knowing that and you see his back turn, and we know that, because I know we had wondered if that was even him standing there talking to the helmet, but now we know that's the case. Tiffany, you saw this trailer? Or you did not see this trailer?
I did see the trailer, and the Kylo Ren stuff was my favorite, but I am kind of on the same page with Mark, where I'm just like, I don't know if I need to see any more. We're so close to seeing the movie, and now everything that comes out, I'm like, please don't spoil this little moment for me, because I'm like, we're getting so close. But the trailer was awesome. I do like seeing Harrison Ford more and more, obviously, as Han in the trailers, because I think it's just fun seeing him do the press for it. And then seeing him in the trailers, you're like, it kind of melds so much better together, because you're like, he's really excited, and he put a lot into the film. So,
John?
Oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah, it was great.
It was so good. I'm in the same boat. I'm like, don't give me any more trailers. Oh, you're giving me another trailer. Okay, I'll watch it. And I mentioned on Movie Talk earlier that I did not think it could happen, but a moment in any trailer, not just a Star Wars trailer, has supplanted Harrison Ford's "Chewie, we're home" line from the second Star Wars trailer as my favorite moment of any trailer of the year. And it is now Harrison Ford at the controls of the Millennium Falcon
watching him go.
Come on, baby. And he's like saying that, talking to the Millennium Falcon. Are you kidding me?
You know what it does, though?
Great.
You're right. You know what it also does, though? We've kind of felt this anyway from watching Harrison Ford talking so much that it looks like he's embracing Han Solo again. Even though we've seen him with the blaster and we've seen him talking back and forth, having some dialogue, but when you see him controlling the Falcon, you're like, oh yeah, Han Solo's back. He's back.
Well, and it was, I think, the behind the scenes footage, you saw Finn standing there, John Boyega, and he was just in front of the Millennium Falcon on set, and he's like, oh my gosh. Like, and that was the moment for me where I was like, we get it that this is such a big movie, and we get it that they're standing next to the Millennium Falcon, but when you're seeing the actor, not the character, standing next to it and freaking out, you're like, I'm sure Harrison had the same kind of moment when he walks up to the Millennium Falcon and you're like, this is legit built out. I'm walking up into it again. It's like, it's so
And
cool.
I understand the hesitancy of people out there who don't want to see the trailer. And by God, we're so close to the movie, you don't have to watch it. It's not required viewing.
No,
but
no, not
when
at
the
all.
first international trailer came out, I kind of likened it to a bartender saying, okay, here's your drink, and now I'm cutting you off. But now it's no longer a bartender.
That
It's
guy's
a
passed
frat
out.
boy.
Oh.
It's just pumping
Yeah.
the keg.
He's
at the
throwing up
party.
all over the place.
That's
yeah,
right,
yeah.
And that's what we're all going to do. You don't have to see this trailer. If you do watch it, I don't think it gives away a whole lot. Maybe you wanted
No,
to save
no, it
that Han
doesn't.
Solo line for the actual movie, but other than that, I don't think it gives away that much.
Well, when you look at it, even when the people, I guess someone has put together like all the footage that's been released so far into one trailer. I watched it recently, and I think it only adds up to like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
The movie's 2 hours and like 12 minutes long or something. So I think we're okay.
The most interesting thing that I thought, though, from the trailer was that we actually, and I think a lot of us missed this, is that we got our first glimpse into the personality of BB-8.
Right.
When she's actually, Rey is talking to BB-8, and she's like, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. It's classified. It's like,
Right,
really? Is that
right.
what you said?
Yeah.
It's
It's kind of like a
classified?
mixture. I think it's gonna be like Chopper meets R2D2.
You're
Yeah.
right. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
a real amalgamation of the
Yeah.
two. So I thought that was really cute.
All right, Mark, what's next?
Well, we hope you guys had a pretty good weekend. We here had a kick-ass weekend in the Star Wars world. What I do on Saturday, I watch college football. But somebody here got to interview the cast in one-on-one interviews. Christian, tell us about your day when you got to meet pretty much the entire cast of Star Wars.
Well, I got a great Jedi Council story to tell inside of this story as well too. But I was lucky enough, had Fandango had sent me out to do a couple interviews, and and I got to interview a bunch of the cast from The Force Awakens. And the reason I bring up Jedi Council here is I got to sit down and talk to John Boyega, and I sat down with Boyega, and he's like, let me start the interview. And I'm like, okay. And then he go, and I go, what?
I'm sorry, Christian. Every time you tell the story, the British accent changes.
Yeah, it has to.
Every time.
Is John Boyega Australian? I didn't know that.
All right, mate. But when he said, "Now I'm not going to do it because I'm intimidated." But he said, "I want to start this interview out," and I was like, "Okay." He's like, "I'm a big fan of movie talk, and I watch Jedi Council." And I'm like, "Well, you got to do Jedi Council."
Isn't that's pretty
and
awesome.
I said,
Yeah.
"You have to do Jedi Council." And he said, "I will do Jedi Council. I'm just not going to do it now because I don't want you guys to get spoilers out of me." And I said, "But you're on tape." He's like, "Absolutely." So that was a lot of fun. But he was great. Gwendolyn Christie was amazing. All of them were great. They had so much energy. They have so much passion about it. I got to sit down. I talked to J.J. Abrams as well, and I talked to Lupita Nyong'o and Adam Driver. But I'm not going to lie. My highlight was Harrison Ford. I'm sitting there talking to Harrison Ford, and again, not going to lie, the way John, he's about exactly where you are right now. And as I'm looking at him in my head, I'm asking him the question, and I'm listening to his answers, but I'm going, stare at him, pay attention. You don't know the next time you're going to be face to face with Harrison Ford. Look at him, acknowledge him, and the line that I asked him, I said to him, what is it about Han Solo that he's still going after the Millennium Falcon? Isn't it like an old car at this point? It was old 30 years ago. Why does he care? He's more nostalgic than I am. It was great. So overall, it's great. I'm going to put those interviews should be up soon, so I'm going to tweet all those out. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, do that. But you got to go to the press conference the next day, and they let out some good tidbits and stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot of great stuff. Not only seeing the cast, I got a similar feeling of giddiness just being that close to all these people that are involved in something that I love so much already, and hopefully we'll love a little more after Monday night. And it wasn't just the interviews, but it was also everything that was set up. I got to take pictures with C-3PO and R2-D2 and BB-8. They had a T-shirt stand. They gave away some free toys. It was a great sweetener to get me to go, which I was already going to go anyway. One of the big takeaways that I got from seeing them sit down was that Gwendolyn Christie as Captain Phasma is a lot more than they're letting on in the trailer. This isn't just some dressed up, really kick-ass stormtrooper. There's going to be a lot more going on underneath that chrome than we've given hints of in the trailers.
John, you heard about the press conference and some of the things that they had said. I think that one of the things I found interesting, we kept thinking and reported on the fact that we had heard a pretty credible rumor that they were going to show either not necessarily post-credit but post-trailer with Rogue One, and JJ said, nope, That's not happening. That's one of the things. The other thing was that Kathleen Kennedy kind of referenced, these guys are shooting episode 8 and tapped John Boyega on the shoulder. So is there anything you took away from the press conference in general that
JJ's still a liar. I still think they're going to give us something. Like whether it's what we would truly call a stinger or mid-credit scene or post-credit scene, or whether he's playing a game of semantics and they're going to give us a little teaser for Rogue One. I think we're going to get something. I'm not betting the house on that. I won't be surprised at all if the credits end and there's nothing. That's all fine too.
Right.
But I forgot that the press day was going on. At all. And then my phone starts going off, and it's Christian. He goes, oh my God. I'm like, what? He's like, interviewing John Boyega. He says he's a fan of movie talking and watching Jedi Council. And so then we're all just kind of geeking out.
And he calls me and we're both geeking out on the phone.
Like,
going, what? Tell me about it.
By the way, you should remind John Boyega that he wants to come on Jedi Council.
Yes.
Just look up his Twitter at John Boyega.
Or Instagram. He's very active on Instagram too.
Oh, really?
Snapchat too.
Is John Boyega his handle on that as well?
I think it's either underscore, but you can find it.
Yeah. What's his MySpace?
But we got Boyega
Friendster.
would be great to have him here. So, look, really, they didn't give away much at the press conference.
Right,
and I think everybody going into it, look, this is one of the very, very few press conferences and press days that ever happen that they don't let the press see the movie first.
Right.
I mean, I saw it once in America's Sweetheart. The John
Julia Roberts, John Cusack, Billy Crystal.
Yeah, and it's kind of a joke that you're showing it, and you know what? One of the reporters in it, an unknown Rainn Wilson, was one of the reporters.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, and it's like it was a running joke in the movie. He's like, you can't have a press day without showing the movie to the press first.
Yeah.
Well, now we have a real live version on it. So because of that, you knew at both the press day and the press conference they weren't going to reveal pretty much anything. It's really more of a promotion tool. Totally understandable.
Yeah.
I didn't get too much out of it.
Tiff, you read about it. What'd you think?
I definitely read about it. Was texting with Christian as he was there at the junket. I was like, what's happening? Who are you talking to? What's going on? I think the cool thing about it is knowing that the press didn't get to see it this time around. Generally, if you're at a junket and you walk into an interview and you say something, they're like, you didn't watch the movie. Like, you'll get crapped on as a reporter if you haven't seen the movie. And so in this case, I think it was kind of fun because everybody knows that no one had seen it. And so it made it a lot safer even for the actors, too, not to spill anything, not to accidentally say something, and to not feel like, we're obviously going to try and get something out of it, but not push them too hard because you're like, no one's seen anything, so we don't want to spoil it for anybody. I think the best is just that, they could have easily not done all of this press. Yeah. They could have easily done nothing.
They didn't need to.
Yeah. And so the fact that all of the actors are so on board, that just to me says so much about the property.
And they really are, man. These weren't just people that are trying to sell a movie. These were people genuinely super excited that they're a part of something. And one thing I wanted to tell you that you would get a kick out of is that there was this guy who was, I don't know if he worked for Disney or who he worked for, if he worked for the convention center, but he was like shuffling people back and forth to JJ. And he was one of these guys where he was I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to shuffle his power around a little bit. And he's the one guy who's supposed to get a certain amount of time. He's like, "You're not getting that time, man." And you're kind of yelling. And then there was a guy that cut in front of me, and I told the guy, "Well, I was in line first." And so the guy says to me, "Bring it down a little bit. Bring it down." And I look at him. I go, "It's Star Wars, man. It's Star Wars, right?" So then I see him a little later, and he calls me over, and he's like, "Hey, Christian, come here. You calm down a little bit?" And I go, "No, it's Star Wars." And then he goes, "It's just a movie." And I go, "You're dead to me." And I walked away.
You know what's funny? I had the opposite experience the next day because one of the guys doing the wand with the security, he pulls me over the side after I got in successfully without anything I wasn't allowed to have. And he's like, "Hey, by the way, I'm just a huge fan of movie talk. Thanks for doing what you do."
Is that the tall guy?
Yeah.
I saw that guy too. Yeah.
And I was like, this is great to know this guy because when I get arrested after rushing the stage trying to meet Harrison Ford, then I got somebody in my corner.
That guy was great. Super nice guy. I ran into him as well.
But here's the other thing about all this stuff. We talk a lot about in past tense about we see John Boyega standing in front of the Millennium Falcon being excited. We hear Daisy talking about how I was a little nervous but think future tense too. What all these actors know right now is that they're on the cusp right now of, hey, Disney's in control of what is the largest, most important movie franchise in the world right now, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. But they know Star Wars is about to supplant it. Star Wars is about to become the main name, the main franchise, the most successful juggernaut between the episodes, the anthologies, all that kind of stuff. They know not just the historical relevance of Star Wars, but what they are starting as well. This is going to be the main powerhouse in the movie world for years to come.
Yep. All right, Mark, what's next?
John Williams is talking about the score that he composed for Episode 7, and he gave some pretty good tidbits that are not spoiler-related at all. That it's going to be mostly new music, and he composed themes for some of the major characters, including Rey, Finn, and Poe Dameron, as well as Kylo Ren. And he also did something for Snoke, and there's a march piece that he wrote for the First Order. Now, when you hear march and you hear bad guys, that sounds like something pretty familiar. And the Snoke theme that he composed is a bit of a choral thing, and it's translated in Sanskrit, originally from a Rudyard Kipling poem, which makes a lot of sense because Rudyard Kipling has the Jungle Book, which is going to be Andy Serkis CGI next year. Now Andy Serkis is motion capturing a person who is Snoke, and that kind of fits.
I lost my mind at the new choral piece for Supreme Leader Snoke because some of my favorite music was the Emperor's theme. Like just like when the Darth Bane trilogy, which is a series of novels, which were my favorite, not canon anymore, but which were my favorite novels. I used to listen to the Emperor's theme because it's all about the Sith Lords.
Yeah.
So I used to keep repeating that and listen to it, and it added so much because it's such a powerful piece. To know that there's going to be a new choral piece for Supreme Leader Snoke, it adds to me more that I think he's going to be a Sith Lord. But I love the fact that we're getting themes the same way we had themes for Luke and for Leia and for Han, and now we're getting ones for Kylo Ren, Poe, and Rey. I love it. John, how are you feeling about it?
Well, look, when you think about the prequels, like as much as we bash on the prequels, there are some good things in the prequels, right? But I think almost everybody everywhere will agree that the best single thing to come out of any of the prequels was Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when you hear, John Williams doing something that's kind of choral, based in Sanskrit, that just sounds great to me. I'd be totally on board.
Mark?
Yeah, the entire way that John Williams is talking about this is a lot like how the rest of the cast and crew are, is that they're just excited to be a part of this. And when John Williams something gets him out of bed in the morning, he's excited to talk about it. That is fantastic news. And I love that he didn't even give away too much. And I said that he had a score for Finn. There's nothing in here that actually says he has his own score for Finn, so maybe he doesn't get his own score yet.
Tiff?
The most surprising thing for me was that Poe has his own theme. And I was like, that to me, I just envisioned like him coming into the rescue, piloting, and then his song comes on and you're like, ah, like super pumped about it.
It's a Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins.
Yeah, speaking of Poe, by the way, Oscar Isaac told me some cool stuff when I was asking him about Poe. First of all, he's kind of caught up on Shattered Empire, and he reads the stuff, the backstory of his character, which I thought was great. I didn't realize that he was actually the reason why, because Poe is from Yavin 4.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Oscar Isaac, what he said, because that was filmed in where he's from, and he had in Guatemala. Yeah, he is filmed in Guatemala, and he had suggested to the story teams, like, what if he's from Yavin 4? And they said, that makes sense. So he suggested it. Story team said, does it make sense? It does, and made it happen. And then I asked him more about Poe's character, and he said that kind of what we think is that he's very much into the resistance, and he is one of these characters that he believes in it, but he also fights against authority. He's not afraid to say what he thinks, and I think that's kind of what we hoped from him. And when I suggested he was almost like the new Han Solo, it was kind of like a wink and a nod, like, yeah. So, all right, Mark, did everybody talk about that? Everybody talked about their thoughts on John Williams, right?
Yes.
I want to make sure. Okay. I want to make sure. I don't want to leave anybody out. All right, what's next?
Kathleen Kennedy is talking about the women in Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and she gave a little blurb about each one and maybe gave away a little bit of a minor, possible maybe spoiler that somebody might survive all the way into Episode 8. And with the character breakdown, she kind of said some of the same things that we already had been made aware of from the trailers and toys and other things that have come out. But the info on Phasma, and particularly Christian, it kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you guys exactly what the spoiler was because we don't want to spoil it if you don't want to know, but we will say that this was one of the things to me when we were first announced with the cast, the first wave, when there was only Daisy Ridley,
right,
and everyone,
and Carrie,
and yes, of course, Carrie Fisher. But when a lot of people, I think, jumped the gun and were saying, "There's no women in Star Wars. What's happening? It's happening again." It's like, take it easy. There's a grand plan, and it's not just because people were complaining that they decided to do it. There was a grand plan, and now that is clearly the plan. And I think in another interview as well, Kathleen Kennedy talked about how they're looking for a few more women directors for Star Wars as well too.
Well, it was interesting because she did an interview, and I can't remember what it was in. So if you guys remember, put it in the comments. But that Kathleen said, she's like, we want women to direct stuff, but she's like, out of 10 like submissions we get, she's like, it's 9 men and 1 woman. So you guys, if you have ideas, if you're a director, if you're a writer, send them in if you're a woman, because apparently more guys are sending them in, and that's the only reason that it ends up being.
And it may be one of these things though too. You look at who's been hired so far, whether it be J.J. Abrams, Gareth Edwards, Ryan Johnson, all huge Star Wars fans.
Yep.
It's not to say that they're not women Star Wars fans. We know that there are huge women Star Wars fans out there. We don't know if any of this, they may all be, but we don't know if any of the really established working female directors right now who are at the top of the chain are Star Wars fans. Maybe they are, and if you are, like Tiffany said, submit. I want to see a Kathleen Bigelow.
Well, you heard what JJ was saying, right? Like JJ actually mentioned that somebody asked him, who do you love to see direct one of these things, and he said, I'd love to see Ava DuVernay. Direct a Star Wars. So I thought that would actually be kind of interesting.
Be really cool. And she was up for Black Panther at one point. I mean, she
turned it down. She was offered Black Panther.
Right.
She turned it down.
So, well, that's the question. Is that, and I think that, and I mentioned Catherine Bigelow too. From what I heard, is that this is maybe something she doesn't want to necessarily do. And I don't want a director who doesn't necessarily want it, who doesn't want to do it. To do it, you want someone who's going to be like, "Yeah, I'm excited to do it," and maybe either if Ava is or isn't, I don't know.
But I think that's still, even when you look at JJ, like when he came in, he was like, I don't know. There's a hesitation because of what the property is, and if you're the one who comes in and messes it up,
you're done.
Yeah,
you're done.
He's running into a little bit of a different thing though too, because the thing with JJ is that if he messes this one up, we're taking a big hit. If The Force Awakens is amazing, and then another director comes in, like let's say Colin Trevorrow screws up Episode 9, he's going to be blamed, and he's going to be the one that we yell at. But the franchise, if Episode 7 and 8 are really good, and 9 stinks, he's going to get the blame more than it's all Star Wars. Oh man,
no, and the fans' eyes too. If it starts off well, and then you hit a bump, fans are going to think the franchise is in trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
You do this first one. After the prequels, you do this first one, and you mess up the first one, there's nothing to fall back on.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. You ruined Star Wars. I mean, so... And JJ talked in the past about that pressure, and he was very cognizant of that pressure, which was one of the reasons why when they first came to him about it, he said, "Nah, not me." And then, Kathleen Kennedy, thankfully, was really insistent about it, and he kind of saw through it, and now here we are.
That's why, amongst all the things that we've seen and heard about the movie coming out, besides the actual footage itself, is J.J. Abrams' confidence in this movie is what sells it to me the most. Every time I've seen him speak about it, which has been a number of times, he's not cocky, but he just seems like he knows they did something great and special, and he can't wait to share that. He's funny on stage, he's loose, he's relaxed, and I think he knows he's got a kick-ass movie.
Also because he's done.
Right.
He's
Yeah,
like,
And he's fucked out.
I asked him about Episode 9 though too.
Yeah.
I said, were you at one point considering Episode 9? He said, absolutely he was. He was thinking about Episode 9, and it was just a matter of, because he's still going to be executive producing and doing all that stuff. And I also asked him about a television show. I said, would you, because he made himself in both Alias and Lost.
Or he loves the television
If
world.
we did it, he said it's something he'd absolutely be up for, but it's up to Kathleen Kennedy. Okay, what's next?
Well, Time Magazine has a new issue on stand soon, and it details The Force Awakens, particularly some plot points that you're going to see early on in The Force Awakens, which is why the guy talking right now did not read this article and does not want to know anything about it. The only thing that I noticed is they were talking about the armor that John Boyega's character is wearing when we meet him in that first teaser trailer. I saw that. I saw what the rest of the article was, and I was like, thanks for playing time. I'll pick you up after I see the movie.
I read the article, and
Are we going to talk about it now?
No, I'm not going to ruin it.
Dear God.
I am definitely not going to.
Mark's like, I'm going to plug my ears.
This guy got to see the first 20 minutes of the movie.
And I think he got to see a little bit of it scored too. If I'm not
So
mistaken.
he told about the first, like what he saw in the beginning of things that happened, and there's a lot of stuff that we kind of
some of it I read clips, and so I was like, some of it we've already seen.
There was some stuff that you went, oh wow, interesting, but again, not going to ruin that for you guys. But there's also other things that he just talked about as far as everyone being involved and how it all came together, and the pressure of JJ, what we were talking about. It's a really good article. I would maybe suggest, if you don't want to know, reading it after next week.
Can I ask you a question? Are you upset that you read it before the movie came out?
No, because he just talks about everything you've seen so far in the trailers in general has been the beginning of the movie.
I've been going on the assumption that most of the things we see in the trailer are the first third of the movie, but if anything ruins that experience for me of watching the opening crawl text and seeing what's going on and seeing even like the famous the pan down, or in Revenge of the Sith the pan up shot, or whatever movie that was. I don't want anything like that tainted.
Are you staying away from this thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the plague. But I
Yeah.
will say now, was this picture in that article?
I don't think so.
Because
maybe it was in the beginning.
Well, because
Maybe it was.
the thing that they talked about, which this I don't think is a spoiler. Sorry, guys, if you think it is. But they just talk about how when John Boyega takes the helmet off, that there's like a suction noise
there's
that
a noise,
happens.
right.
And that to me was just like, there's such an attention to
and if
detail.
you consider that a spoiler, please go stick your head in an oven.
yeah, and what they
See,
said
even
about
that stuff though, like I read that, that's when I stopped reading because I'm like, I don't want to know anything.
Well, the reason why they said
that's
that,
the kind
too,
of detail I don't want to see them give away.
But the detail, what that was about more was the fact that how much, like Tiffany was saying,
Yeah.
with detail is when they said to JJ, well, you know, when the stormtroopers used to take that off, that didn't happen. He's like, yeah, but it's 30 years later. He's like, the same way that cars and things are different, computers are different now than they were 30 years ago.
But here's the picture. I think is more important than what I think a lot of people realize, and represents something very, very major that I think a lot of people aren't getting. If you can go to the wide shot, just so we can get a look at that picture again. You see, it looks like a hockey dressing room, for heaven's sakes. Okay, when you realize this, see all those costumes, all the helmets, all the armor, all the boots lined up under the benches. Remember this fact. In Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, all those clone troopers, not one of them were real. Not a single one, not one actor in Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith ever put on clone trooper armor. It didn't exist. It was all CGI. Fast forward now to where we are today, and you see this. This picture symbolizes such a massive philosophical shift.
Yeah.
There's still going to be ass loads of CGI in this movie, but this does represent a philosophical shift.
And that's one of the things, and I thought about you when you said, because you say that often, which we also think. J.J. Abrams talks about it in that Time magazine article. He said, yes, there's CGI in it, but we tried to use as little as possible.
But as possible is a very flexible term.
It's
right?
different than
as
ass loads.
possible. Yeah.
But it also makes me think of like in Lord of the Rings, like the first time when you had the orcs and the Uruk-hai and everything, and they actually had actors in all the makeup in the beginning, in the original trilogy, and then you go to The Hobbit, and it's not. And
you lose effect
Yeah,
because
you
of it.
lose a lot of it. And it wasn't all of them that were real, but if you've got that first couple rows that are real people, real actors, and then the other ones kind of bleed in, it feels a lot more like real world events.
Yeah, like I'm sure that famous scene now that we know from the trailers, Huck standing at the front with the legions.
Right.
I'm sure they didn't get 25,000 extras to put on Stormtrooper armor, but you're right. As long as you get that first few rows that are real, then it just adds to the believability of the whole thing.
All right, Mark, what's next?
Next up is, yes, we will all be in attendance at the Monday world premiere of Star Wars The Force Awakens. And according to StarWars.com, the biggest movie event of the year will also be live streamed at StarWars.com. No, we're not talking about the actual movie. We're talking about the red carpet is going to be live streamed at StarWars.com. So you can check out things like star interviews and other things going on the red carpet, so you can feel like you're a part of the action.
Well, they caught wind that I'm going to be periscoping it. That's what
I'm
that's what-
Well, I
sure
was
you're
like, first
Periscope.
question, why are we not doing it?
Yeah, well,
Who says we're not?
I know. The funny thing is, you're probably going to catch our mugs in there if you're watching.
Well, at
But
some point, probably will.
Of course, they're doing this, and they should do this. It's genius. It's great. It's going to get people that aren't able to be there to watch it. I love it. Tiff?
I mean, I always had so much fun. I used to do the Marvel live streams for their premieres, and it was always so fun getting the actors on the carpet and the fans, because that's what the experience is all about. There's people who are lined up now to be there for the premiere. So getting all of those fans there and seeing which actors like run over and talk to them and take photos with them, it'll be really cool, because I'm sure they're covering not only the interviews, but the whole vibe of the carpet as well.
Let's be honest. They want to know what I'm going to be wearing, and I'm not going to tell you. You got to find out that night. It's going to be special.
It's going to be great.
Ask Men's Warehouse. It's going to be special.
But you think this is smart?
Yeah. It's a great idea. If I wasn't going to the premiere, I would be on my computer watching.
Totally.
it.
John?
Yeah, I'm the same way. Very smart move. It allows a lot of people, the fans over the world, who want to participate in the experience of this, the first true big world premiere in forever. It's a great thing to do.
No brainer.
Okay, what's next?
Well, we got a surprise featurette from The Force Awakens, courtesy of Comic-Con Brazil. There was a new featurette that was a lot like the behind-the-scenes that we all saw at Comic-Con San Diego this past summer, and it had some cool tidbits. You got to see maybe a little some different angles and some interviews with actors talking about it mixed in there. And I just put two and two together because I actually got to see this Friday night. I went to a special Star Wars event at the YouTube space in near downtown LA, and they aired this at the end too.
Oh,
so
cool.
it was cool. It is different. It didn't give away anything, but it was cool seeing. I like seeing Oscar Isaac and how much of a push they're making peaking late in the game for Poe Dameron's character to be one of the major factors.
You know what I liked about it was the John Boyega. I think you made reference to it before.
The Millennium Falcon
He's
moment.
standing in front and he sees the Millennium Falcon. And he's like, wow. He's like, his goosebumps, and that to me made me realize what a fan. I kind of knew what a fan he was already, but just the scale of it, the scope.
And they also had him bringing his Han Solo toy.
Oh, that was
signed.
amazing.
Harrison
Yeah.
Ford
He's talked
asking him
about that
autographs.
before.
Yes,
He's talked
he
about
has.
it, I think, at
Yes,
Celebration
he
to
has.
see it. But John, did you check this out?
Nope.
Okay, you didn't want
Because
to stay away
I
from
don't want to. I don't want to see. If it's a trailer, I can't resist. Otherwise, I'm trying to avoid some of the stuff.
Interesting.
Right
You see. I think this stuff is less revealing than the trailer. So I'm curious why you didn't watch that one.
I think it's because I have the ability to resist this.
don't care
A
as
trailer, I just don't
Right.
hit play.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one small thing in it that I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it had to do with a droid and Poe.
Oh, right.
That
Okay.
I just love, like you were saying, Mark, that it's like they're pushing this character more forward now, which kind of makes me worry about the characters that they're pushing so hard, because I'm like, does that mean they're not going to make it through the first one because they're holding these ones back for the next one?
That is true. Okay, Mark, what's next?
Well, if you guys were watching Good Morning America this past week, you were treated to not only a great interview with Carrie Fisher, but the star of the show, Gary Fisher, her dog that set the internet on fire this week. She has not only on Good Morning America, but in other outlets as well. Carrie Fisher has been such a great sport, laughing, joking, leading the interview in a lot of instances, and this might have been the best example of
It
that.
was awesome. It was so much fun. It was so great to see her doing this type of interview, but it was the jokes that she was going back and forth with the host. But she also said, just, talking about her time, they asked her, was there ever a time when you weren't going to do it? She's like, I'm over 60 years old, and they're asking me to be in this movie, and these roles don't come across. Of course I was going to do it. The honesty of this woman. I was so bummed when she wasn't there on Saturday, because it would have been great to talk to her, but this interview was great. Did you love it?
It was so funny because I just loved how she starts like throwing barbs at the host too, where she's like,
Playful ones,
well,
too.
yeah, but where she's like, well, I mean, you got dealt like this beautiful card where it's like you're so pretty and you wake up and you look like it.
right.
And she's talking about like working out and how she hates it. But what I loved about it so much too is the fact that we know she runs her mouth. We know there's always a chance that Carrie's going to say something she's not supposed to, which is why I'm glad they're like, bring your dog, because then you won't say anything. You'll talk about the dog. You won't give any spoilers, but she's still like pushing the movie. The end of it, when she's like, go see the movie. You're going to love it. Trust me, you're going to love it. That made me excited because I feel like even these actors coming back, that they again have that passion for it, was really cool.
Now she's a comedian also, so like and she's in the circle anyway. There,
And super talented writer.
super talented writer. When you see this interview, you have to love.
She's hysterical. She's got great comedy chops. She's got an awesome special that's a one-woman show that you can check out on HBO. She performed at the Brea Improv a couple years ago, and I tried like hell. I called them like 3 days in a row. Like, you guys need anybody to open for Carrie Fisher? Didn't get the gig, but yeah, she's awesome.
Did you love this?
That dog is so ugly. It's awesome.
Awesome. With the
That
tongue.
dog, you want that dog.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
The
This
dog fell asleep during the interview.
Oh,
That was like,
this just in. Disney is making a toy of Gary the dog.
I bet.
Okay, what's next?
Well, we got a new TV spot this week. We got some new posters, and we got some new still images of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. This poster has BB-8 on it, which seems fitting because if you guys know anything about me, you know I think R2-D2 is the most crucial character in the first 6 movies, so a droid being somebody that gets one of the big posters makes total sense to me. And these still images, Christian, I think we can send the fans to check these out because it doesn't give away too much. It's some different settings than
I
you
don't
might
think so,
expect,
yeah.
but you get to see some of the major players.
My favorite is by far Hux and Kylo Ren.
Yep.
That's Tarkin and Vader. Like that's what that looks like. And then
And
Phasma
Phasma in the
standing in the
background.
background, just like, what's up?
Very Boba Fett.
There, and
Yeah.
she's she's referred to herself as the Boba Fett of this franchise, which I love. And the one thing, Chewie has been going to the groomers. I mean, look at that guy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's 30 years older, but he looks a little younger. He's got a great haircut.
His conditioner game is on point.
It's amazing to be doing those commercials. And then obviously with Poe and BB-8. I love these images, but my favorite is, I think, hands down, Hux and Kylo Ren.
Oh, yeah, no. Somebody sent that image to me a long time ago. Yeah. And I remember being, wow.
Yeah.
Like, just because you've basically, Snoke aside, you've got the triumvirate of evil here, right? And I think Hux is going to be, you said this a long time ago, and I didn't not believe it, but I kind of brush it aside. I think Hux is going to be a much more key player in these movies than we might have initially thought. And seeing a picture like this is great. I'm also really a big fan of that one picture of Rey beside the AT-AT feet.
Oh, right.
I mean, I think that's just great seeing that that's a part of the ruins down there. And Poe with BB-8 is great as well. So no, these are they're all great, but head and shoulders, Hux and Kylo is the best one.
You got a favorite?
I think my favorite's the Rey one. Just
It is
because
great.
from hearing, one, I wonder how much of that was built out, because how cool would that be just to sit at the feet of an AT-AT would be awesome. And two, I'm like, I wonder, because when she's talking to Han Solo and he's like, all the things you've heard are true, like how much does she know about these ruins that are there? Because if you're a kid and there's stuff that's just always been there and you're like, I don't know what it is, but I know it's there. So it's like, does she actually know what the significance of those ruins actually are and what that meant?
It's a good
really
point,
cool.
Yeah, Rey looks like a kid who just struck out and lost the big game, but she's sitting outside Cub Stadium. She has no idea the history of that place.
Yeah.
Same thing with that. And again, Poe, he's being more and more featured. They're pushing this guy more and more, and I'm loving it.
All right, what's next?
Next up is that George Lucas is in the news again, and this week it's actually good news that we can celebrate because George Lucas has seen The Force Awakens, and apparently Christian, I know you don't want to believe this, he really, really liked it.
I believe that he liked it. I don't ever think it was a case of him not liking it. I think it was just a matter that he didn't want to see it. He didn't want to see it, because I just think that there's this thing that, and I understand that he just doesn't. It's got to be hard for him, especially all the hate that he got for the prequels, that people are totally embracing the fact that he's not involved. And that's got to crush. I don't care, $4.5 billion, it's got to crush him. So he finally saw it, and I think it was big of him. I think it's a great move of him to come out and say, because especially the negative press that's come out the last couple of weeks, regardless of if you thought it was bad or not bad, it still was. It's still got a lot of negative press. So he comes out now, he's the creator, and he's endorsed it. It's a good move. But Tiff, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's described it as a divorce.
Yeah.
And it makes sense where you're like, this is this thing that you loved so much, that you were such a part of, so ingrained in your life. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, you can't really have a hand in it. And what Kathleen Kennedy said, where she was like, he's really not someone who can kind of take a little step back and be a little bit involved, which I get, because it's, imagine this is your project and someone else is coming in and you're like, let's balance this. No, this is my baby, or I'm totally out.
Right.
So I appreciate the fact that he saw it, and they're saying that he's going to be at the premiere, which if he didn't show up at the premiere, I would be really bummed out, because when it comes down to it, we would not have this movie if it weren't for him.
Right.
Yeah,
John?
I'll be honest, I have always thought way too much was being read into how George has reacted to, like, even those comments about, hey, it's a divorce, man. You know what? The first rule breaking up, you don't go over to the girlfriend's house. You don't call the ex-girlfriend. You don't follow her on Facebook, all that kind of stuff. I always interpreted it much more mild than a lot of other people have. I never thought there was anything wrong with his comments. And as far as the whole thing, it must be hard for him seeing. I don't know, because everything I see, including, you go back to Celebration, Star Wars Celebration,
right?
Whenever, like, all the panels are on whatever panel at the front, in front of those auditoriums, and the moment people say the name George Lucas, the place erupts.
Yeah.
Hearing JJ constantly paying homage to George Lucas, hearing Mark Hamill paying homage to George Lucas, even Harrison Ford now talking about, like, we always say, you can write that shit, George, but you can't say it. But even now he's saying, look, George did this, this, and this. This has been a giant George Lucas love fest ever since this thing got going. So I was not surprised that he went to go see it. I was very relieved to hear how much he liked it, because I have a feeling as positive George has been towards everything here, I have a feeling George Lucas is the type of guy that if he did not like what he saw, he wouldn't come out and say, I didn't like it. But I also think he wouldn't have said, I really liked it. I think the fans are going to love it. So I was very relieved to hear him say what he said.
Mark?
George Lucas is totally wrong on how to handle an ex-girlfriend. You do call them all the time. You drive by their place late at night. There's a lot of things
How
you can
else
do.
will they know
But
how
you-
much they mean
Right.
to you?
You don't get caught doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, they don't
I'm
get caught
sure
doing
he's at
that.
home looking at everything on his computer.
That's
He's
right.
just not publicizing it.
I actually stay off the computer.
He's a secret stalker.
And I don't think he ever attempted purposely to seem bitter or anything like that towards Star Wars. He can come off that way. He might be a little socially awkward.
He's not a
which
great communicator.
all of us
I'll
can
totally
be accused of being
acknowledge
from
that.
time
Yeah.
to time, but this is great news. And yeah, Kathleen Kennedy did also say that he will be at the premiere on the 14th. So I look forward to meeting you in person, George.
All right, what's next?
Let's talk about another Star Wars movie, another Star Wars story. Rogue One is currently shooting in the Maldives, everybody. Not you, Oscar Isaac. Get rid of it. We already talked about you. People Magazine, the hard-hitting reporting that they do, you can catch that at grocery stores next to Red Book. Let's move on to the Maldives, which is where Rogue One is now shooting. They're using more real locations in varying places. I have no idea what planet they're going to make this, but Christian, this does appear to be another one of those planets, and maybe it's the same one where we saw those images of the ships landing and a lot of dead stormtroopers floating around. What's your take?
I think that's exactly where it is for sure. And also maybe it's going to be Yavin 4. There was only so much of Yavin 4 that we saw in the original film, so maybe it's going to expand a little more of how they built the base there, whatever it is. But what I love is it's continuing on the fact that we get real locations, and they're going to keep doing this, and it's not green screen stuff. This is great. I love it, Tiff.
Well, I love, too, that they said, they'd shot stuff that looked like this. They built out a set at Pinewood, and then they were coming here to shoot more with the actors. And that, again, you're like, yeah, we're not only getting real stormtroopers, we're getting real locations. I think they were saying they shot in Iceland as well. So they're going to these epic places, and I think that only makes it feel that much more like we're going to different planets, and it's not green screen.
No, and it should be a mandate from now on, because now Rogue One and Episode 7 did it. Every filmmaker coming in should know, listen, before you sign on to this, real locations, this, everything else that they've kind of put down, this should be a thing, because it really, especially when you're dealing with so many different planets, to give us this feel. But you see these pictures. I know you're a big location guy. So.
This looks like a movie I want to be cast in, because you get to chill on that beach. I mean, it's great to be on location, all these different sets. And apparently Felicity Jones was shooting scenes there, as was Forrest Whitaker, who came in a day later. So take that for what it's worth.
John?
Well, as far as the whole real life sets versus green screen thing, it's the same thing to me about practical versus CGI effects. Sometimes it might be best to shoot green screen. Sometimes it might be best to use an artificial environment.
But as long as it's not dominant.
No, exactly. Yeah. As long as you're always doing what is best for the shot. And if what is best for the shot is going there, then by all means go there. And if what's best for the shot and will save you 5 days of shooting and whatever all at the same time, something else, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, let's not also forget too, though, that we were all blown away at D23 by Star Wars news, but also by a trailer for The Jungle Book, which is almost entirely CGI. So if you can make it look realistic, I'm up for whatever story you want to tell, however you feel like is the best way to tell it. We can learn from our mistakes in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I was also, the reference I was going to make was I was going to say The Good Dinosaur, the way that was set, like a lot of those, minus the dinosaur. The dinosaurs look great, but the locations, I felt like it was almost shot. It
almost felt like they were putting animated dinosaurs in real. It
looked so real.
Video. It was crazy.
So I'm just curious because both Jungle Book and Good Dinosaur did have CGI characters mixed in there.
Yeah.
So I'm still wondering how the technology is going to further when we're putting real human beings in that. So we'll see how that goes. But what's our last movie story?
Well, we're talking about Episode 8, which we have no idea what the title is. We do know that Rian Johnson is directing it. There's some casting updates. Maybe imminent. We're looking at possible sources that are, quote, very reliable, that have details on an actress who will be new to the Star Wars setting, where the movie might be filmed, and they also have some ideas about new sets. The actress in question is likely Geraldine James. She's 65 years old, so I'm sure she loves her age being mentioned on public internet stuff. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a movie she appeared in recently. She was also in Gandhi and Alice in Wonderland. And in regards to those sets I alluded to earlier, they're building some desert-like sets, so makes sense.
It's awesome, and it's funny because we started talking about this, John and I, last week about, Force Awakens is coming out, and eventually we're going to start hearing it. We're only a year and a half. Take that in.
Yeah.
We are a year and a half away from Episode 8. So we are going to start getting...
Step back a little bit. We are a year and a half away from there being 3 new Star Wars movies.
Isn't that
already.
crazy?
That's insane.
A year away from Rogue One, a year and a half away. We are going to start getting Star Wars Episode 8 casting very close.
Yeah.
This is one of them. These are the new rumors. When even like last year, all the new rumors were coming from Rogue One, and it's. I don't know this woman. I have no idea. I'm confident in the casting. I'm confident in Rian Johnson's casting. So yeah, okay. If they like her, sign her up.
Yeah. I mean, I think she looks really... Initially, what I thought was that she would be some kind of someone within the Resistance, like a general type person. She just has such a look about her that's like wise, but also you would be scared if she tried to tell you to do something that you were like, nah, maybe not. And you're like, okay, you'll listen to her. I think it's cool. I just appreciate the fact that even throughout the whole thing that we're getting these castings of people of all ages, people from all different kinds of things, because I think that just builds out the universe that much more. We've got older, younger, whatever you want in the real world.
Real.
So yeah, exactly. And I love that.
John?
I'm going to fall back to I don't care. It's very difficult to have an opinion one way or the other when I have absolutely no context, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you can come to me and say, Pauly Shore has been cast in the Star Wars Episode 9. But depending on the context, that might be the most brilliant move ever, or it could be the worst thing you've ever done.
I would lean towards that.
More than
Lean
likely,
towards that.
yes. But since I have no context, an actress has been cast in Episode 8. Great. Other than that, I really have no feelings.
Mark, you like the older ladies. What do you think?
Gary Fisher, start barking.
Did you
because
call them earlier today?
I might have called them. I didn't call them. I called two ladies specifically aged hens. It's a beautiful way.
Aged
What?
Yeah, they're amazing doves. That have,
I don't just
that have progressed
Episode 8, Aged Hens.
into beautiful
right.
hens. I think that's Han's first wife. She's coming to town looking for a boy.
No, that was debunked. Okay, so that is the end of the Star Wars movie news. Now it's part of that show. Simply, we call here, What's the Deal with Canon? Everything happening in the world of Star Wars that's not just the movies, but ultimately ties into the movies, novels, video games, comics, television shows. We talk about them all here. Mark, what is up first?
The latest episode of Star Wars Rebels has aired, and it is titled Legacy. Christian, you and John both got a chance to check this out, and you guys have your review. I believe it is up on Collider Video right now. What was your brief takeaway from the episode?
Well, we do the after show here, and if you aren't watching the Rebels recap show, you should. We give a really full breakdown there. It's about 25 minutes. Here we'll do it about 3 or 4 minutes. But this is the mid-season finale. I thought as a mid-season finale, it probably could have done more. I was nice to see. What? Did you love it?
yeah.
All right, talk about it. We've talked about it. Without spoiling it, obviously.
Without spoiling it, I feel like it revealed something that we've been trying to find out this whole time that has been obviously from those photos, it revealed a lot for Ezra. And I love seeing this character grow so much. I think that it showed how far he's come as a Padawan. And I loved that. And the interaction between him and Kanan. And for me, it was, yes, we've gotten like the finales where it's an epic fight. But this, to me, is developing the character of this one character, Ezra, so much. And it was heartbreaking. And it was I thought it was great.
I don't disagree with any of what you just said. I just think for the last couple frames of the finale, I was like, all right, he probably got a little more in that stupid cat that he was chasing around. But what'd you think?
Jedi cats?
It was weak.
Yeah.
It was weak, especially for a mid-season finale. It was weak and a little bit disappointing and underwhelming. Now, look, you guys know how much I love this show, but you're only going to believe me when I tell you how much I love the show if I'm honest with you when I tell you there's something about it I don't like.
Right.
There's a combat scene in this particular episode in like a hangar bay of some sort. That is tits. I mean, it's awesome. It's just.
I like that that's your description for a kids show.
How dare you? To all of the aged hens out there, I want to apologize.
This is the first show that I signed on full
Tiffany.
time.
Welcome,
Sorry,
Tiffany.
boy.
the scene is terrific. One of the strongest scenes of but overall, the episode ends. I don't feel like I really know any more than I did when the episode began. And for a mid-season, maybe I would feel a little more positive about it if it wasn't the mid-season finale.
That was my problem with
I was expecting something much better.
But you didn't feel like it showed how much stronger he is.
Yes, I think it did.
I think that was really
so
showcasing
much.
that hangar scene. It really
wasn't
did.
that. I just think
even
that
in the getting to the big reveal, that
But-
he could do that.
Yeah, but you know what it is?
I'm trying not to say what it is.
I know,
I
it's
think
tough.
that the mid
We're used to doing the recap show when we assume the
Say
audience has
everything.
seen it.
Right.
No, this is totally
the
different.
mid-season finale of season 1 left you with like,
Yes.
wow.
Which
Yep.
one?
Yeah,
What
it was
happened?
when Ezra kind of channeled in the dark side.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
But
okay.
anyway, so if you want to watch our full recap to what John's talking about, to where we actually went into all the detail and our full review on it, it's myself, John, and David Griffin. Go ahead and check that out. And you should be watching it because we really, really go into depth. All right, Mark, what is next?
Fine, I'll catch up on Rebels before it comes back for the second half of the season. We have Star Wars Annual #1 is now on shelves, and Christian, Did you get a chance to check it out yet?
Not yet. I'm about 5 pages in so far, and I can't really give a full review on it. Whether or not I can tell you that I love the cover, and I get to see the Emperor doing God knows what. But hey, I'm in.
Who's that poor sap that he's looking at?
I don't know, but it looks like whoever that red droid is ripped off one of his arms and gave it to C-3PO. But I'm curious. I don't have enough of an opinion. I want to know what it's about. So next week I'll have my full review. Did you read it yet?
I literally just picked it up.
Okay,
so
we'll have a full review on
Annual
Annual next week. And if you have read it, please comment and tell us.
I read it.
You did
You
not.
did.
I did
You
not. No,
liar.
I didn't.
All right, next.
Well, if you are a fan of Star Wars Underworld, there might be new hope for you yet, because it looks like this stuff might start to come back as Tiffany and Christian start chuckling. What in
I
the
really
hell?
thought you were going to say if you're a fan of Star Wars
but-
underwear.
but I'm actually laughing because you said if you were a fan of Underworld, it was impossible to be a fan because
Not true.
How so?
I'm a huge fan of Star Wars
Really?
Underworld.
What episode was your favorite?
I mean, I'd probably say 7, but 9 also.
Episode 7. Okay, well, Star Wars Underworld was a show that they never got a chance to produce.
But
Yeah.
it's been on
Great
IMDb
show.
for a while
It has,
now.
It has.
So what they did was Lucas said he apparently wrote like 100 scripts, wanted to do 300-400 episodes. It was supposed to be like Godfather-esque is what they were saying, like in the underworld of Star Wars, more adult-oriented. And
So cool.
Kathleen Kennedy kind of referenced that this type of show could come back.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the show that we were talking about with Netflix, the rumor Netflix? She certainly hinted at the fact that TV was a strong possibility. This would be great. Why wouldn't you take off if you have 100 scripts and you could go off of stuff? Not that you necessarily have to use those scripts, but you have that much idea from the creator himself and other writers. Why wouldn't you use it? You hate a lot of things. Do you hate this?
Yes.
You hate
Yes.
this.
Yeah. Yes, I hate it. No, I don't hate it. But I'll be honest with you. A Star Wars TV show does not appeal to me. Look,
Interesting.
It's like me saying I don't want to see any more trailers. There's a new trailer. Oh, okay.
Did you feel that way
yeah.
with Daredevil though? Before Daredevil came?
With Daredevil, yeah, I wasn't really interested in Daredevil.
Okay.
Saw it, loved it. I
Right.
wasn't really interested in Jessica Jones. Saw it,
You
hated
hated
it.
that, right.
But I mean, I like Star Wars in the medium that it's in right now. And I like the pace at which it tells its stories. I like that it tells all of its stories on really grand scales. But, so I'm not interested. But, hey, there's a new Star Wars Netflix show on. Okay, play. Immediately.
Right.
And then we'll see how it goes.
Because you felt that way with Rebels. You weren't going to be into
Oh, I was
Rebels at
totally
first. Right.
disinterested in
Right.
Rebels.
Right.
Like, there's two different things between, okay, what's your advanced feeling about it before you see anything?
Then the honest reaction
And then you've got,
afterwards,
as a fan, you have to be able to take whatever your preconceived ideas are, because it's cool to have, thoughts and predictions about whether you think something's going to be good or not. But as a fan, you've got to then be able to take that, put it in a box, and put it aside when you actually do sit down and watch it. And I'm glad I do, because if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't be into Rebels as much as I am right now.
Right.
I wouldn't know Daredevil the way that I do right now. So you got to be able to do that.
Mark, you're a big fan of this show. Are you excited it's coming
I've
back?
seen every episode on Netflix. It is phenomenally put together. You guys got to check it out.
But you hear about it. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not in John's camp where I can say definitively I don't want to see a Star Wars live action TV show. I'm just not sold on it yet because, like you brought up, after we see The Force Awakens, we only have a year and a half before we see Episode 8, and in that time we get to see Rogue One, which is another Star Wars story. There's something about getting excited to go see these things in a theater when they open that I don't know if it transfers over to Netflix. That's one of my favorite parts about Star Wars is the anticipation, is the build-up to go see it. But if you told a story that was totally independent of all the events going on, that would be interesting to me. I think that'd be the way to do it. Would we care about it at all? That's my big question.
Tiffany, join me on the sane side here. You're excited
I
for this.
am so excited about this because I think, one, the fact that they're saying we've read the scripts, we're not going to throw something away that has some real potential to it. That's exciting to me because I'm like, if George Lucas did work on these and he was excited about them, we saw what he did with Clone Wars. I loved Clone Wars. If this has anything kind of similar to that, but even darker, I mean, I'm envisioning it could be like Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Totally different characters.
That's where they were aiming for.
Yeah.
It was around that time.
Totally different characters that we don't know, that we haven't met yet, because it's an entire galaxy.
Yeah.
We have so many planets and so many places to go that they don't even have to mention Luke Skywalker or Han Solo or any of them. And I think that I would be like on your camp, if you started to hear actors that you loved being cast on the show, you'd be so much more on board.
I think that's why I'm a little shocked with you not wanting this more, because one of the things that you say normally when we talk about whether it's the spin-off shows or spin-off movies, anthology movies, whatever.
Don't make the universe smaller.
Right. And this is a chance to make it bigger,
Much bigger.
So that's why I'm a little curious.
Well, see, there's an interesting article that I read not so long ago, in that was looking at why did Avengers: Age of Ultron, which was a smash hit by any definition, but why did it make so much less than the first Avengers did? And one of the things that this one person in the article wrote, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, I'm just saying one of the interesting things the author brought up was the television show Avengers: Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that a lot of people didn't like that show, and that eventually it kind of soured some people to the whole Marvel universe, and that was part of the reason why you see Age of Ultron come in a step lower than what the first Avengers did. And one of the things that makes me a little bit nervous is that, okay, you're going to make this TV show. It won't be your A-list talent work. And when I say A-list talent, I don't mean actors. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy isn't going to be given as much attention to this as she is to the movies. It's not J.J. Abrams going to be given the lion's share of his attention to this as he is to the movies. The A-list talent will still be on the movies. And my fear is that a television show, if it comes in subpar, and because let's face it, it's going to be a drastically lower budget than anything else we've ever seen from Star Wars. I'm afraid, I'm not saying it would, I'm just saying I'm nervous that it could affect the overall Star Wars fandom if it's subpar, and then what that could do to the future of the movies. Once again, that's just fear. It's not, I'm not saying that's what would happen. I don't necessarily think it would.
Anger needs to
Yes, exactly.
All right. Last canon story.
Yeah, my favorite video game ever is Star Wars 1313. Is it 1313? I don't know what it is. It's a video game that was in development, and it's one of the properties that came over when Disney bought Lucasfilm. And Kathleen Kennedy said that they're still considering doing something with that material. Will it be a video game? Will they take that story and try to make it into something else? It seems like Battlefront sold pretty well. You got to think there's a lot more Star Wars video games in development.
I hope it's the latter, from what you were saying there too, because 1313 is like the lower levels of Coruscant, and it was supposed to be the first like mature video game for Star Wars and like in a rated R fashion.
And wasn't it supposed to be a game that kind of lived in the universe of Underworld?
Yeah,
they're supposed to be
They're
associated
supposed
that
to kind
way.
of be associated. So the fact that these are both coming out, she's talking about both of these things. I think a movie in this world of 1313 would be very interesting to do. But it goes back to my point of every time we bring out a potential movie is that there's only so many movies you can do a year. Because we're getting Han Solo, they're going to get episode 8. Then when would this come out? 2020, 21, 22? It's like there's going to eventually, I'm telling you, be 2 movies a year.
Is this what they were talking about in Lords of the Sith? When
1313
one character goes,
yeah,
okay.
1313 it's been mentioned a few times in canon novels too.
It's way gritty. I think I would be. This could even be what they're talking about with the TV show, where it's like tying those worlds together and making it that much darker. And I mean, imagine if someone like the directors or people who did stuff with Game of Thrones, their budget is big, but not as big as Star Wars the movies, and that show's fantastic. And they use real locations and they use like practical effects and stuff. So if they could do something like that with this world, I would be on board.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what if you got like down here, you got like a Roydian, right? And he's like a school teacher, and he figures out a way. He's a chemist, and he figures out a way to make death sticks, but the purest death sticks out there. Could that be the idea for a show? Oh, it's been used already. Okay.
There's definitely going to be death sticks involved somehow.
Would you think this is a better video game?
I do. I mean, a video game, it sounds awesome, but it might not fulfill your goal of expanding the universe all that much, because one of the things they wanted to have be the plot line of 1313 is that Boba Fett is a younger version in here, and so he's running around Coruscant, which would be awesome to see in some regard. I would not want Boba Fett to be the main character. I still have my hesitations about a Boba Fett film with him being the star, but it's kind of an intriguing plot line. I gotta admit,
especially if they do a video game.
And they don't have to keep that one line. They don't have to keep Boba Fett in. It could be something totally different.
But even if they did keep Boba Fett, Boba Fett could be an entryway into if it's a video game, because all the stories in the video game now will be canon. So it would be interesting that he's kind of the gatekeeper of brand new characters in this underworld, people that we can be introduced to through Boba Fett and certain adventures. So, yeah.
And cherry picking. I mean, we've talked about this with the movies even, where Kathleen Kennedy would talk about stuff and be like, we're not throwing all that stuff away. We're picking out the stuff we like the best.
Yeah.
They could be talking about 1313 and Underworld, picking
and put them
parts
together.
out that are like, this is going to be a snippet in this movie that's coming out 5 years. Like, we just don't know.
All right, that's all the stuff on the canon. Now, we are going to do a special edition of Address the Council. Now, normally how this works is that one of us will address the council, tell us something that's on our minds, and we will tell you guys, and you guys will comment in the comment section about said topic. John's going to lead us off here, but we're all going to really be addressing the council. This is a very special time, John. please, the council is yours.
Yeah, look, it's something really special has happened to everybody at this table here that we are incredibly excited about, and we've spoken about it. In 4 days, the four of us will be going down into Hollywood to attend the world premiere of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. When I was a kid, the earliest childhood memory I have, you've heard me say this before, is watching Star Wars with my mom. That's the earliest memory. I don't have another memory for till years after that. But also as a kid, I remember seeing the pictures on television and the video footage on television of the Chinese theater in Hollywood and the world premiere of Star Wars there. And R2-D2 was there and C-3PO was there and the crowds. And it was a cultural phenomenon, like something we had never seen before in the movie world. Nothing like this had ever happened. It was the dawn and the birth of the blockbuster era. Those memories of seeing that movie, of watching those images of the Chinese have lived with me my whole life as a teenager, as an adult. And the concept now that in 4 days, we get to go down there. I'm actually getting emotional, so bear with me for a second. The idea that in 4 days, the four of us get to actually go down there and now become a part of something we have imagined, of something that has occupied our creativity, our imagination, that has occupied the sci-fi fantasies and the action fantasies that we've had growing up because of this particular franchise. The knowledge that in 4 days we get to go down there and participate in that is something that I simply cannot put into words. I can't tell you. When I would tell friends of mine who had heard that we're going down to the world premiere of Star Wars, and I would say to me, this is a bucket list item. That isn't lip service. This is truly a bucket list item. It's one of those things that says, okay, you're going to die. This little, speeder trooper is going to come to life, and he's going to kill you, but you get to do one more thing before he does that. It would be attend a legit world premiere. I went to the Clone Wars premiere, not the same thing. Go to a legit Star Wars world premiere. This has been like the most important thing in my life because from childhood till now. The fact that we get to do it and the fact that we get to do it together is incredibly special to me. And that's one of the reasons we're going to take Periscopes and we're going to do Instagramming videos and live streams, because not just because we want to get views on the channels, because we can't wait to share it with you too. So we're just really looking forward to this.
Tiff.
It was interesting because over Thanksgiving, I was home with my family and we watched the first two original films. And it was cool because I've talked with my parents about it before. But Mom was like, yeah, your dad and I went on date nights to watch these movies. And we watched them with you guys. And so it was cool hearing that perspective on it and just really seeing how it does bring everyone together. Because my mom's not like a huge action sci-fi person, but she really enjoys these movies. And so it was that to me just reminded me of how many people are going to come together over this one film. And it is, I got the email, I think it was that same weekend I got the email that I was invited to the premiere, and I was like, I got invited to the premiere. I was like, is this them just saying that it's the premiere, or am I actually invited to this thing?
And you're reading it 2 or 3 times just to make sure.
Well, and I was telling you guys, I was like, literally, I haven't gotten all the full details yet. And usually when you RSVP to a premiere, they send it immediately. Haven't gotten that yet. So I checked my email again. I was like, I did send my RSVP, right? I did really get that email. So it's like this moment where every morning you kind of wake up and you're like you said, in 4 days, we're going to have seen this movie. We're going to be able to talk with people about it. And it's not going to be this buildup that we've had for so long where it's like, what's going to happen? Who are we going to see? What are these characters going to be like? Because we're going to know. Right.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Mark.
It's just a theater experience that I'm looking forward to, because I'm never going to have this feeling again going into any movie. Not only has the hype surpassed anything you could ever possibly imagine for a film, this is not the last Star Wars movie we're ever going to see, which is great news, but it's the last time I'm going to be in a theater, and it's going to feel like this. I'll be really excited to see Episode 8 and Rogue One and all those other movies, but I didn't know this was ever going to happen. I had made peace with the fact that Revenge of the Sith was the last Star Wars movie I'm ever going to get to see, and I was cool with that. I could move on with my life and maybe one day get a girlfriend. But now, once Disney acquired the rights, all these potential worlds opened up, and the fact that it is now culminating in a matter of days when I get to sit in a theater and feel something that I've never felt before, it's just going to be something that I hope I can one day put into words to describe to you guys. And on a not a more sour note, but something that I think should be pointed out is that I know there's a lot of people who work at movie theaters who watch the show. Every time I go on the road, I go see a movie. They're huge fans of Jedi Council. If you're working in a movie theater, or even if you go see this movie opening night at a movie theater, make sure you keep your wits about you. There's a lot of dipshits. There's a lot of idiots. The dark side can be everywhere. Please take a second to make that extra security measure and make sure that everybody in the theater is supposed to be in there, and nobody that's not supposed to be in there that looks weird, get them the hell out of there.
Well said. For me, I think that, you know, Mark, you mentioned when Disney bought over the rights to Lucasfilm. I remember we did a video, French Schmoes, and just talked about the fact that this happened and the excitement and the possibilities on what we were going to see. And that was 2012. That was the end of 2012, and here we are today. We are almost there. Stay on target. Stay on target. Because not only is this just a big experience for us on Monday, yes, we get to see it, we get to go to the premiere. It's an experience for all of you guys. Come 2 weeks from now, all of you guys who are watching right now, majority of you, that one way or another, you're going to see it. And we are going to be watching. The next time you watch Jedi Council, even though we will not spoil the movie for you guys, that day, next Thursday, a lot of you will be getting ready, and hopefully we will be encouraging you even more so to get excited, get ready to see it. And then in 2 weeks, when we do our next Jedi Council, we're all going to talk about it. But this Jedi Council is the very last time that we're all sitting here going, I wonder if, what's going to happen? It's now going to be more about the what comes next? What's going to happen next? What did you think? What did you guys think? It's just this possibility of what being a Star Wars fan is. And the reason why we do this show and that you enjoy watching this show is because of what the possibilities are now. And like I thanked Fandango before for sending me and making my dreams come true with being able to talk to the cast. Now, thank you to Disney for inviting us to be able to be around that same cast and watching them watch what they're bringing back to us. It's a great time to be a Star Wars fan, and we're pumped, and we're ready to go. All right, now we wanted to hear from you guys. So this is the part of the show where every week you guys submit your questions to #Collider Jedi Council. We go through them, we pick them, and we have a bunch today. Mark, what do you got?
Juan Samariba is going to kick us off and says, do you think there will be an episode called New Dawn and a flashback to how Hera and Kanan met?
Now, what Juan is referring to is in Rebels, of course, because A New Dawn, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, was the first canon novel in the new canon here.
I remember we were in the same hotel. We were in our pad that we got at Comic-Con, and you ran out like a giddy and come again. I got the new book.
Reading it in the morning. Dennis is like, hey, you want to get breakfast? I'm like, nope. I'm halfway through. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I certainly would like to see an episode where they have reference to the novel and how they met, because you really get the breakdown of how the characters of Kanan and Hera met and what they were all about. And there's a great villain, and regardless of what you think about the actual novel, the character of Count Vidian was a pretty cool villain. So I wouldn't mind seeing a flashback. I don't think it's going to happen. You've read the book.
I read the book and I really liked it. It was the first one the first one I read, and I did it on Audible as well. So I audibled it or something.
It's a better Audible than I think it is a read.
Yeah, it was so fun. And so, yeah, I do kind of wish that they will do this kind of backstory, because for me, that's what made me love the character of Kanan so much more, because you saw him not quite as young as Ezra is, but you saw him becoming who he is, and you get a lot more background and insight into why he behaves the way he does, which I think would be really cool to see.
You were not a fan of the book.
No, I hated the book.
Yeah. So, but still.
Good thing John and I are on opposite sides of the table today.
But John and I have talked about the story itself and the way that they met was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, what they do is interesting.
You think this will happen?
It's difficult because there is now that everything is canon, now that the book is canon,
right.
It's not just something you can do an episode that's based on the book.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be detail for detail.
Yeah.
On that. And, I really did dislike the book. It almost turned me off of trying Tarkin, which I'm so glad you talked me into trying Tarkin, because I freaking love Tarkin.
Right.
But so I don't think they will, and I kind of hope they don't.
Yeah. They don't necessarily need to.
No, they certainly don't need to.
Do you care at all?
Haven't read it, was busy watching Star Wars Underworld.
All right. What's
and
next?
playing 1313.
And playing 1313, hell of a game.
Old hens.
Ethan Brown is next up and says, do you think he changes his name to Chris Hagar? What a move by Brown. What do you think of the people concerned The Force Awakens will be a remake of A New Hope?
Listen, here's the thing, and I brought this up recently. I think it was on Movie Talk. Now we've seen Creed. Okay, Creed is essentially a rehash of Rocky 1. It really is for a lot of reasons. But it also stands on its own. Very much so. It also has a lot of new moments, new characters, new story to tell. Personally, I would be okay with an homage to Episode 4 and a lot of the same beats if it's done in a way that it still stands on its own. Like, okay, I see how that maybe ties into, like, again, we just talked about before. There's the Vader, Tarkin / Hux and Kylo Ren relationship that reminds me a lot of what happened in Episode 4 and certain beats. I'm okay with it as long as I still feel like it's a brand new story. John?
There's a difference between thematic similarities and plot point rehashes. Like, here's a thematic similarity. In Star Wars, you have a young character in Luke at the beginning of the traditional hero's journey who's waking himself up into a much broader, wider world and goes on a quest, if you will. It looks like we have that same theme with Rey. She's a young character who is about to begin the traditional hero's journey, whatever. That's just thematic similarities. You're going to find that same thematic similarity in 1,000 other movies. What would be a plot point rehash would be if Rey was living with her guardians who get murdered by the First Order, right, that then pushes her off into an adventure. That would be different. What we see in, I believe, and we haven't seen the movie, but all we've really seen in any of these trailers so far is thematic similarities. But those are very, very different from plot point rehashes. So I'm not worried about it at all.
Mark?
Rey's Guardians might get torched, man. Those First Order troopers didn't look like they missed much on Jakku. But, yeah, you're right. There's going to be shades of A New Hope. You're going to feel something similar because it's a very retellable story that happened to take place in a galaxy we'd never seen before. We've seen that galaxy since, and this takes place in the same galaxy, so there's bound to be some similarities. But overall, I think that because the team involved with creating the story is so conscious of A New Hope and wanting to make something that felt akin to it but not the same, you have nothing to worry about.
Tiff?
I think the only thing I can kind of compare it to is the comic books. I know there's moments in the comics where at first you're reading them and you're like, I feel like they're just doing this because they wanted to do a Star Wars comic and it doesn't work. So I think if there is a moment in this movie where someone says, I'm your mother or I'm your father, that's going to take me out of it. If it's so on the nose.
Yeah, I think it's
but I just feel like it's going to be so on the nose that I'd be like, a little hesitant
what
about
about
it.
a limb getting cut off?
Well, if Rey finds out Kylo Ren is her father, then that's a plot point rehash.
And that guy was young when he started,
having somebody finding their parents.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing?
But
Haven't
I
seen
don't
you
know.
around the
I feel
preschool
like
before.
it's more if it's like they know who their parents are and they're trying to find them. That's one thing. But if it's things that are just so similar, I get it. The thematic points that are similar, because obviously you could find thematic points along almost every movie to be like, there's a hero, there's a villain, they're trying to save their family, they're trying to save this, their siblings, they're not. So I don't think it's going to be a reboot or a remake of A New Hope. But yeah, there's going to be some similar points in there because they're saying this is bringing Star Wars to a new generation, and those things that resonated in the first one will resonate again.
And I want there to be, because I don't know if you guys have seen A New Hope. That movie kicks ass.
All right, what's next?
Ethan Brown, he's back, and he's ready to ask a question. Do you think there will be a reference to Obi-Wan Kenobi in The Force Awakens?
I don't know about Episode 7, but I think Episode 8, because again, and this is just going off the thought that I don't think Luke is going to have much dialogue or much to do in Episode 7, except like the last 10, 15 minutes. I think he's going to be teaching more in Episode 8. So I think that in Episode 8 we will have one for sure. What do you think?
I mean, I just get this sneaking suspicion that at some point in Episode 7 you're going to see somebody that you've been friends with for a long time, whether it's Obi-Wan Kenobi or it's Yoda or it's maybe even his old man. There's going to be some sort of Force ghost. I wouldn't put money on it because I think you're going to see so little of Luke that you might not have time telling that story to be in a Jedi temple with him, hanging out with Obi-Wan, having a Force beer, but I think it'll definitely happen in Episode 8.
John?
Appearance nil. Mention likely.
In 7.
Yeah. In
Also,
7.
a mention.
Yeah, just
I think
mention.
is
I don't think
is-
appearance for
a
sure.
mention. I think is definitely
Yeah,
going to
when
happen.
you-
In 7 also?
Yes.
Really?
When you
Yes.
consider that what a presence Vader is in this movie. Vader's not in the movie, but his presence is
Yeah.
clearly all over the trailers and
Right.
everything. And understanding that his lifelong enemy, once best friend, who played such a pivotal role in Luke becoming what is, I have to believe a mention. If the question is a mention, I think very
Wow.
likely.
Well, and I think especially because we have that character Maz Kanata, who has
Yep.
been around for so long, that would be an easy place to throw in a mention
point.
there, where it's
Yeah.
like she's telling about the past and it comes up there. I don't think we're gonna see Obi-Wan.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
In any way in this one, but definite reference I think is
Wow. So
doable.
it's 3 against 1. All right, next one.
Oh, this is exciting. Michael Wells has a question for John Campea. John,
What?
why don't you go ahead and take this one?
Okay, what is this for me? Do you think? No, that's a different one. Okay, are any? Oh, that's why it's for me. Okay, are any of you going to Celebration London?
Can we go?
If so, how do you think it'll be different in the wake of Episode 7?
Can we go? John, can we go?
Okay, wait. Literally since April, these jackasses have been asking me if we can go to Star Wars Celebration London. We are considering it.
Mr. Campea, I have to go to the bathroom.
We are
Sure.
considering going to Star Wars Celebration London.
By
I
that
think-
time, by the way, we can watch Force Awakens on the plane, I bet you.
We can take
Oh,
R2D2 or BB-8 there.
But what I think is the really interesting part of the question is, how does our expectations of that and what's it going to be like different being post Episode 7? That depends on Episode 7.
yeah.
I mean, because if it's what we hope it's going to be, I think it's only going to intensify what that experience will be. If it's a bit of a letdown, might alter it a bit. But yeah, it all depends on Episode 7.
If it's great and if it's good, the expectations and what's going to happen in April in London is going to be bananas because you have because you're going to have the Rogue One's going to have it's a full trailer. For sure. I mean, it's not even going to be a year away at that point. And it means a year away now. And then we'll be about almost a year away from... We'll be about a year away from... Well, less than a year away from Episode 8. So it's pretty crazy, yeah.
Here's something interesting.
Oh, geez.
Is
Some
that
break?
Star Wars Celebration was in April this past year,
It's
right?
July.
Now it's in July. So it's over a year away. Man, that is really odd scheduling. I wonder if they're giving Episode 8 enough of a cushion to get us that first teaser at Celebration.
It's less than a
in
year
London.
away, so I bet you're
we
right.
were 1 year away when the first teaser for Episode 7 came
Yeah.
out. So
It's going to be footage galore because there's also going to be probably new footage of Rogue One that we haven't seen before, and we'll all be high-fiving because we saw The Force Awakens.
I just think it's going to be interesting too, seeing all of the actors from The Force Awakens coming now and being able to talk more openly about the movie.
Well,
Yeah.
the ones that are
That's-
still alive.
Well,
Yeah,
even the
and
ones
Benicio
who aren't
del Toro.
alive,
Yeah.
the ones who aren't alive, even whoever dies, they can go to this celebration, finally talk about.
Well, and Benicio del Toro will be there,
Yeah.
I'm sure, as well, too. Because
Yeah.
who is he? What's he doing? All the new characters, So anyway, okay, what's next?
We got a great pick from Aaron Jedi.
Yeah, now we recorded a special episode of Jedi Council. We had a special guest come into studio.
Yeah, Adam Ray-
See this great
Adam
lower
Ray.
third that Ray made for him.
Adam Driver.
Adam
Guys, that's
amazing.
me.
Yeah, Adam Driver came in and he put on the outfit. No, that was a great fan art by
Tiff
by
is a suitable replacement for Kylo Ren.
Yeah. All right, you got 2 more questions here. What do you got?
Kevin Villers writes, for the rest of your life, you can only watch either A, any Star Wars movie ever made, or B, everything else, not both.
It's easy for me. Star Wars movies. If I know that I get a Star Wars movie every year and I keep getting the universe, I love movies. I love so many different movies. There's so much more in my life that come these movies that come out in November and December that I love to watch, the Oscar movies. But that means no more Star Wars. Yeah, give me the Star Wars movies. And I'm very curious to what you say.
Here's my question. Can people tell me about Star Wars? Because my choice would be
You'd wanna
I
see it.
could
You'd
watch.
lose your
Wait,
mind.
but see, if I watch everything else, how much of an influence does Star Wars have on so many other movies that I'm like, okay, it can bleed over into that, and people could tell me about Star Wars.
Tell me
Can
that.
I read the books?
Say that after Monday,
Can I read the books?
John.
Everything else.
Everything else.
I mean, it's just you can't be a full Star Wars fan if you are not immersed in film itself. Like,
I know,
you just
but
can't
but it's your only
understand-
choice.
No,
though.
I know, and so, but like to me, it's like my favorite dish in the world is my grandmother's, my nonna's veal parmesan. That's my favorite dish in the world. But if you like, bar none, nothing comes close. But if you say you can only eat that, or you can have all the other foods in the world, it's like, well, I am really going to miss that because it's the best. But the totality of everything else, I won't even be able to appreciate that veal parmesan if I don't have all the other foods
allow
in the
me
world.
to be the fat guy walking in with eating all the veal and going.
No, then you just have to reenact it for us. We'll just make you.
Like if
vomit
you were to
out.
say to me, okay, you can watch, you can only watch all the new Star Wars movies if you now limit yourself the rest of your life to 10 other films a year.
Yeah.
That becomes a tough. Then it's like, okay, then I will give up all.
I know I'm in the
490,
minority, but I just, for me, it's just
I don't think
just
you're in
can't.
as much of a minority as
Yeah.
you think.
What do you think?
What really makes it tough is when you consider all the great pornographic fare out there that doesn't consider.
count?
It's not actually
Oh, I didn't
Star
know
Wars,
that.
so I just get to watch that. It makes it tougher, but I'm going with Star Wars.
Nice. Well done.
Man. My favorite movies, dude.
All right. Let's. Wasn't the best high five, but let's go to the last question.
We got to work on that,
That was
by
bad.
Monday. We're
Yeah,
gonna be
it's
we're gonna be
brutal.
on StarWars.com.
I know. All right. Last question of the day.
Gary Buck writes,
Is that the dog?
Gary.
No.
Gary
Oh, geez.
Buck says, "Will you honestly be satisfied if The Force Awakens is not better than any of the original trilogy movies, but is still good?"
Yes, I will be. I mean, I know John it's got to be better. You know, we were talking. It's got to be better than. Maybe your opinions changed. I don't know. But as far as is it going to be better than the Empire? Is it going to be Jedi? It doesn't need to be for me. If I just want it to be a good movie. I want it to have great characters. I want to care. I don't want to leave going, oh, why'd they do that? Why'd they do this? As long as I'm going, okay, that was really satisfying. And then I'm saying, I don't want to go out going, oh, it was better than Empire. It was better than Jedi. Oh, it wasn't. Oh, it hasn't satisfied me. I don't care. I just want to be in the seats, and I want to be taken to a galaxy far, far away, and I want to learn about these new characters. That's all I care about.
Look, to me, it's like asking the question, if I go and watch any mob movie, and whether or not it's disappointing is only determined by whether or not I think it's as good or better than The Godfather, then you're set up for a lifetime of disappointment. You ain't ever going to see anything that's better than The Godfather, like as far as that genre goes. Right. To be an excellent, maybe even Academy Award-worthy movie, you don't need to be as good as The Godfather. Star Wars is it. I mean, the original trilogy is like the greatest films ever made. So to say, does it have to be better than those? No. Like, I love Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Love that movie. Crazy about that movie. Watch it all the time. Won 11 Academy Awards. All that kind of stuff. But it's not as good as Star Wars. Does that mean I'm disappointed watching Lord of the Rings? Not at all. If this movie is great, then I'm going to be able to love it and celebrate it just as much as anything else. It does not have to equal Empire, Return of the Jedi, or New Hope. It doesn't have to do that.
Marcellus Ellis?
I don't think it can be as good as the original trilogy, and that's not any comment on who's in it or the people behind it. It's a comment on the ass face watching it. It's that once the movie gets into my eyeballs, there's just a certain standard that I have that I don't know that any movie can ever surpass, and that would be the original trilogy. I'm going to reference a band that I don't talk about that often, Van Halen. If Van Halen 1 comes out and you hear that, you're like, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. And then they released an album in 2012 called A Different Kind of Truth. Was it as good as Van Halen 1? Of course it wasn't, but it sounded like Van Halen and it kicked ass. That's what I want from The Force Awakens.
Smith Lord.
I don't think you can ever go into a movie comparing it directly to something else, even if it's part of the same franchise. I don't think it can be what the originals were because there was nothing like them at the time.
Yeah,
there's so much
good
more
point.
stuff to compare this to now where it's like, oh, we've seen visual effects that have been so amazing. We've seen this. This better be better than all of those things. I don't really know what better than the originals means. If it makes me feel things, if I have all the feels while I'm watching it, then it's going to be, in my book, perfect. You know, it's not necessarily that, oh, did they get that one shot that I wanted to see that I felt like this in this moment? If overall I walk out and I've got a big smile on my face, then it's going to be, it's equal to, I won't say better.
All right, so that's it. That's today's show. How about the Smith Lord's very first show as a full-time member of the council? Super excited to have her on the show. Tiffany, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
You guys can obviously now find me here every week on Jedi Council, but you can see me on Fandango. Christian and I host Movie Threesome every week as well. And DC All Access will be back in the new year with more episodes there, and CW Fan Talk as well, and social media at Tiffany's Tweets. And guys, I just want to say a huge thank you because you guys have all been so sweet to me on Twitter, in the comments, welcoming me to the Jedi Council. So thank you guys for that, and thank you guys all for watching, for welcoming me. Yay.
Mark2D2, where can the kids find you?
On Twitter and Instagram at 5150Ellis. This weekend, I'm at the Comedy Store Saturday and Sunday, and I got a really good, anticipating Force Awakens bit I've been doing, and Sunday night is the last time I get to do it.
Right.
Here.
This is your last show of 2015, is it not? On Council.
Would be my last Council of 2015.
Oh, yeah, you're not here next year.
Oh, yeah, because I'm going to be at the Tempe Improv the 17th through the 20th, and as soon as I get off stage Thursday, I'm going right to the movie theater to see The Force Awakens. So if you guys want to come out, I'll either be at the Comedy Club or I'll be at the AMC Theater on Palm Avenue.
But you'll be here for the review.
Yeah, we're going to do the review, and then we might do a special episode of Jedi Council.
Did we mention the review on today's show? We did on Movie Talk.
Oh, we did.
Mention it here?
Today, yeah. By the way, we're going to be doing, after we see the movie, we're going to be doing a spoilers-free review of The Force Awakens. It'll be up that night on Monday, the 14th, and we haven't figured out exactly when, but we're going to do a full, just kind of what we did for the trailer when the trailer was released. We will do a Force Awakens full episode. Now, whether that's the four of us or myself, John, and Tiffany, we will do that as well, and there will be a spoiler review eventually as well.
Yeah.
So just keep checking out. If you're not already subscribed to Collider Videos, what are you doing? Hit that button. Make sure you do that so you don't run into where are your videos.
Over-under for the spoiler review is 50 minutes.
Before you sign off and let them know where you go, you got to do your question. I don't want to forget it.
Yeah, here comes the question.
Oh,
the question is, from 0 to 100, percentage chance. The percentage chance. And we'll make it, I think we've evolved this into two separate questions.
Yeah.
Percentage chance that Kylo Ren, and here we're only 4 days away now,
Yep.
Kylo Ren and Rey are, question A, related, question B, actually siblings.
All right, well, you start. You haven't done this yet.
So let's start with you.
Related? Or
Let's start with related.
Yeah,
Percentage
related.
chance that they are related.
I say 100% related.
Okay. Siblings.
Siblings, I say 76%.
76.
7%. An excellent guess. What about you, Christian?
I won't say, but I will say 100% related and 2% siblings.
2%.
Yeah.
I've been waffling on this thing since we started doing this question. I was always around the 50 mark, and that does not continue today. 100% that they're related, 0% that they are siblings.
Whoa.
You're going to have 0.
Wait a minute. You used to siblings. You used to be up in like the 80s.
If I could change, and
Wait
you
a minute.
could change.
What dropped?
Everybody could change.
What dropped you to 0?
Rocky beat up Ivan Drago in Rocky.
No.
IV.
Why'd you drop to 0?
I just don't get the feeling that they're siblings. And I always kind of had that inkling, and I was gradually going towards that.
Wow.
And now, before the movie, I just want to make a definitive statement because I'm awesome.
Interessante. John.
I will go 51% that they are related,
That's it?
2% that they are siblings.
You know what? You and these.
You're wrong.
You were
What?
No, he was at 9.
You said 2%.
Of course
Why can't
I did,
say
but
2%.
related.
Because this is the answer to that question is for the last couple of weeks I have been 2%, 3%, 5%. You 99%.
You were much higher than 3% at one time. You were much higher.
Maybe
You've
so,
evolved.
but you've been in the upper echelons of
Yep.
the 80s and
I've
90s.
just taken the full shot clock. That's all.
Yeah.
I've taken the full
It's
shot.
not where you
Something
start;
stinks.
it's where you
Something
finish
stinks.
at the end of the season.
All right, John, why don't you sign off and let them know?
Hey guys, you can find me here Monday through Friday on Movie Talk, on Tuesdays on Heroes, Thursdays here on Jedi Council, Saturdays and Sundays on Mailbag, Tuesdays on the Flash recap show, Wednesdays on the Rebels recap show, and you can follow me on Twitter and on Facebook simply at John Campia.
And for me, at Christian Harloff on both Twitter and Instagram. Like I said before, please follow me on Periscope so you can follow us when we are there, when we are doing the live streaming, which we'll be doing on YouTube as well. And I will post those Fandango interviews with the cast. Just check my Twitter for that. And make sure that you are watching here for all of our coverage coming up on The Force Awakens. It's going to be a Force Awakens heavy, heavy month. Share this, like this, and then we'll see you next week. May the Force be with you. Always.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.